So thank you again for your support of the community outreach. So let me like to introduce Paul. So after 35 years in the transportation industry, Paul accepted the challenging assignment of leading Metro as its general manager and CEO. Under his leadership, Metro has turned the corner on safety, service reliability, financial management. Through his Back to Good program, Metro Rail is delivering 9 out of every 10 customers to their destinations on time. He put in place a multi-year financial plan to keep Metro safe, reliable, and affordable. Through his plan, for the first time in the organization's existence with Paul at the helm, WMATA has received regional dedicated capital funding from local, state, and federal governments. Construction of the second phase of the Silver Line continues with 6 new stations between Reston Town Center and Ashburn, and it's on the paper and are expected to open in 2020. Help in welcoming a very busy man in the DC area, Paul Wiedefeld.
What I thought I'd do is just really hit on 3 topics. I thought I'd share a little bit about where we've been, and then talk about where we're going, particularly in our fiscal year 20 budget and our capital program. And then wrap up with some challenges, and if we have some time, take some questions, if we could. I think it's always important, though, to first just sort of step back and just remember how important Metro is to the system in so many ways. We move, 1 million passengers a day at Metro on an average work day. For you that are the airport focused, the Dulles, I believe, moved roughly 24 million, I believe, last year. We do that just about every 4 weeks. So it gives you a sense of scale of how important the system is to the region. The Washington Council of Governments has done a study that showed that if Metro was not there, traffic congestion would be increased by about 25%. So that's unimaginable for us to live with that. And clearly what we do for the environment, both the air we breathe and the water, but also from a sort of a selfish perspective, if you're on the highway side of the equation, because to build highways you need, because of air quality, you need to have some offsets, and transit provides that. And most importantly is the economic impact that it has. And that played out clearly with Amazon coming to this region, and one of their key factors, if not their top factor, was access to transit in their selection process and the tax revenues that's going to support. So that's all very, very important. And really, it is sort of who we are in the region. It sort of reflects our quality of life, and sort of, it is sort of a badge of honor, that we have a system like this in this region to support everything that we want to do. So let me just give you some quick facts. Our focus, again, is on safety, service reliability, and fiscal management. So from the safety side, we basically reduced, and I'm sure you recall, we used to have insulator fires almost daily, not too long ago. We reduced that by almost 70%. And Part 1 crime, the most serious crime, is as low as it's been since 1999. So we've put quite a bit of focus on that. In terms of reliability, our rail cars are at an 8-year high, and a lot of that's the new 7000 series. We're almost more than half of our fleet now is the 7000 series. We've done a lot on the capital program side. You may remember we shut down the yellow line to do the bridge, the rehab the bridge of the Potomac. Hadn't been done in decades. We've started a preventive maintenance program where we go out there and we're dealing with both track and power issues, and that's resulted in a reduction of 50% of infrastructure-related delays that we were having. Our bus performance is the best it's been in 10 years. And the result of that, we've been able to offer a rush hour promise. For those of you that register your smart cards, please do. And if it started out, if we were 15 minutes or later, we'd give you a free ride. We just started at 10 minutes or later, we give you a free ride. And we're the only ones in the nation that do that. And we're actually the only one in the world that does that automatically for you. So anyway, and we're also focusing on the basic customer experience, whether it's the lighting, whether it's the cell phone coverage. Right now, we have cell phone coverage in 2/3 of our tunnels right now. Basically all of Virginia, except for a very small part of Tysons, right outside of Tysons, it's all covered there, Wi-Fi at our stations. So we want to focus on that. And then fiscal management is huge with the amount of dollars that we spend, the public dollars that we spend. We've had a clean audit for the last 4 years and on time. We're spending 100% of our capital program now. We used to spend about 65 to 70% of that. We've had to do some major initiatives to reduce costs, and we continue to do that. Absenteeism in our business is very important to keep that down. We reduced that by 23% over the last 9 months, because if someone doesn't show, it costs you a lot more to provide that overtime to do that, or you can't provide the service. And then we just recently announced our office consolidation, when we're going from 11 facilities that we either own or lease down to 4, one of those being at Eisenhower Station. So all those things are driven to make sure that we're financially sustainable. So really, the true value of all those things over the last 18 months or so since I've been here is really sort of the proof in the pudding in terms of rebuilding credibility of the agency and of the product. So really, it first came to fruition with the dedicated revenue, and so thank you in the business community that supported that. But that was really driven, that was done by, obviously, the elected officials, basically supporting us. The other part of it is the people that oversee us, the Federal Transit Administration. They recently were overseeing everything we did. They now don't do that. They don't oversee our capital program to the degree they were, or our safety program. We've moved out of that. But the biggest really is the impact of our customers and what they're telling us. And if you could just share this one slide. And this is my only PowerPoint, so I won't. But if you happen to see in the Washington Post this Sunday, there was an article about how people are viewing us, and this sort of gives you the snapshot of it, of where we were viewed at one time, 15 years ago or so, and where we're viewed now. And so we had taken quite a bit of dive, and we're starting to bring that back up. So we'll continue to work on that. So what's next? Still a long way to go. I'm not trying to do any type of victory lap here. We have a lot of work in front of us, and we need to do a lot more to improve the service for sure. And we're going to continue to focus on safety, service reliability, and fiscal management, and that's reflected in our budgets. So in the 20 budget, our operating budget, which is 20 billion, wow. My dream. No, 2 billion. 2 billion. 2 billion's a lot of money. But anyway, we met the 3% cap, which is a cap on the operating subsidy that we get, which again, it's not the operating cost, it's the subsidy, the difference between the costs and the revenues that we get. Our costs, actually, we've been keeping those down about 1% to 2%. The issue is really a revenue issue, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But basically, we did not propose, and we will not be increasing any fares. We will not be cutting any service. In fact, we're increasing service. We're taking the red line and the yellow line to their endpoints. And we will do $47 million of cuts and/or revenue generation internally that we'll have to do for the upcoming year. On the capital budget, which is $1.5 billion a year that we will be spending, it's on the basics. It's on new rail cars. It's on rail car maintenance, the rail ties and things of that sort. It's on the power side of the equation. It is on new buses. It's a new power transit service and new divisions, and it's on things of that sort. And that's the reality of where we are right now. And we will continue that for the foreseeable future. Clearly, one of the biggest things that we'll be doing starting in less than 2 weeks is the platform south of Reagan Airport. Huge challenge for us, for sure. But if any of you have seen the photos of what we're dealing with there, it is well overdue that we get to that and fix those platforms, or we would have to shut them down, to be frank, because we couldn't put people out there safely. So we will get on top of that and finish that in about 3 months' time frame. So with that, I'll just sort of the challenges remaining. We have one financial one that we're continue to work on. We have a unique funding source from the federal government that gives us $150 million per year for the last 10 years. That dries up at the end of September. And we're working very closely with the congressional delegation here in the region, and they've been obviously very supportive of that and taking a leadership role. But we're also working nationally with different leaders throughout Congress to get that done. The president did put $150 million into his budget alone on that, so that's a very good signal for us. But we want to get that to be a long-term commitment from the federal government for lots of reasons. The ridership challenge is, as I mentioned, it's a revenue issue as much as a cost issue. It's probably right now more a revenue issue for us. And if you read that Washington Post article, even though the metrics are going the right way in how people view us, they're changing their travel behavior. And it's for lots of reasons. So Uber, Lyft, obviously, land use patterns have shifted, you name it. Telecommuting in our business has an impact on us. The price of fuel, the availability of cars, the longevity of cars now, things of that sort. All those are playing into this sort of marketplace for us. So our goal is just provide the best product we can within that marketplace, and that's what we will continue to do. The 3% cap is a challenge for us, and it will be. We initially proposed it, and I think it's good. It forces the management structure to constantly look at ways to reduce costs and drive revenue, and that's a good thing. But we don't want that to cap new service or new things we want to do. If we want to do that, that should be above and beyond that. That is something, but from a management side, we should keep it tight, and that's the goal there. So that's what we're focusing on right now in front of us. So let me just close. I wanted to thank Jack Potter for everything he does, but obviously everyone at the airport. Charles is here with the Silver Line and some other people. But we have a great relationship with MWA and with Jack and I do. We have one that goes back to my days at BWI Airport, and we're shoulder to shoulder on the Silver Line. We want to get that done as quickly as possible and open in 2020. And we're extremely excited. Next time I come out here, I want to take the train. I don't want to drive. So that is just so important to us. And as you know, everyone in this room knows how important it is. Big projects have issues. I've been in this business, 35 plus years. And every big project I've ever done has had issues with it. We will get through those. You work through them. And so I'm confident we'll get there. Charles and his team does an excellent job. So I'm not worried about that, but we want to get there, when we're all ready to go there. So anyway, so thank you for your time and attention. Be glad to take any questions or comments that you might have. And if not, that's good. We can open up the bourbon. We do look at systems all over the world, and in fact, Network Rail is out of London, and we actually have them under contract for us. Every transit system has different things, or different ways of how they got there. It's particularly challenging when we can compare it to international, because land use decisions, pricing decisions of fuel, and obviously in a communist country have some different rules. But what we've done here, which it makes some logic, is they thought of the transit system as a utility, meaning you pay at peak periods you pay more, and for longer distance you pay more. So there's logic to that concept, but there's also there's some downside to that. It makes a very confusing system for people, particularly visitors, to use the system. To deal with that issue, if we wanted to in effect make it be a flat fare across the system, we'd have to deal with some other issues. So in effect, you'd have to probably bring the base fare up, which then would hurt people at the lower end of the social economic spectrum, and it would help those that at the higher end. So that would be a large policy issue to deal with. But it is something that we are starting to work through. Are there other ways to do this to at a minimum simplify it? But the concept that the region came up with is, no, we're going to treat this like a utility, which is what in reality it's the way that the tolls are being played out. That's a utility. You pay more when it's in high demand and less when it's not. And so that's the same concept that we have. Yes. So part of it is we can work a lot smarter. Technology's changed. So I think there's opportunities for that. But we also have to be realistic. We have a two-track railroad. That's a fact. And so we can only do major work by literally shutting down one or two of the tracks. And historically, when we had moved to 3 a.m. Closings and opened up at 7:30, literally we were not doing any work out there during the weekends. There was no way to do it. Even during the work week, when we were shutting down at midnight and opening up at 5, you're getting maybe 2.5 hours of true work, because by the time you set up, take down, get everyone out of there and do it safely, that's what you're doing. So you're paying 8 hours for one thing, so just economically it doesn't make sense, and you're not getting the production that you need and the getting ahead of the program. So that's why we pulled back. So it's a discussion that we'll continue to have. Right now, that sunsets in a year. We just had a debate on that, so we did get another year of that. So we've got to work smarter. I think there's things that we can do to maximize that, but it will be a challenge for us. And it's more because we have a two-track system to deal with those issues. When you look at other properties around the globe, they tend to have much more flexibility in that or they have come up with programs that they really can keep up. But we're still sort of in the digging out mode, unfortunately. But we want to get out there, out of that mode fairly as quickly as we can. Yes, sir. We actually came out last May with a 3-year program on the platforms. We have 20 outdoor platforms to do. They are major work, so we've already laid out the next 2 years, and they will require the same. Now, they're different. They're throughout the region. And then hopefully soon after that, we hope we can get that under control. We don't have to do that. Again, as we get smarter on some of these things, as we learn some of these things, we can do that. But there are certain parts of the system, the ventilation system, for instance, we need to do work on that. And again, to do that, you have to shut down to get up there and do that type of work. So we will be coming out with that in the near future as we start to think through that. But we want to get it down to the bare minimum. One thing we have learned, some of this requires a total shutdown, other times single tracking. But what we've tried to do is we've learned along the way where safe track, we couldn't do that because literally it was a pure safety issue. We had to get out there. But what we want to do is minimize as much of the entire system as we can. So even though this shutdown of the 6th station is going to be extremely tough, but that's 6 out of 91. So the other 85 are operating normal. So that's, unlike when we did Safe Track, we were impacting entire lines. And given the nature of the system, they interconnect, and you're impacting lots and lots of people. So that's part of the sort of the new management approach that we're taking. So I would see if we do closures, it would be more along that scale where we try to minimize it, at a focal point and get through it as quickly as we can, both in terms of the impact on customers and saving dollars. It would have taken us about, to do those 20 platforms, if we did them traditionally the way we would do them, it would take us almost 30 years. And every time we did that, that was a tremendous impact on our customers and, taking us about 3 years per platform. So we're losing revenue. It's just not the way. It's just not very efficient at all. But painful when we do it. There's no doubt about it. Yes, thank you for the comment, but it's not me. It is 12,000 people, which is what's turning this thing around. There's no one person that could possibly do that. And it's also, if I could, it's Ms. Hutchins. It is the political will and the political sort of giving us the backbone to do some of this stuff. So she deserves a lot of credit. She was on the board when we went through a lot of these first stages here. And the board continues to do that. And larger, whether it's Richmond or Annapolis or the district. So the long-term plan to get ahead of this is, again, we never had a preventive maintenance program. It's hard to imagine, but literally we did not have one. So I'm not sure what the thinking was there, that somehow this would just magically. So just having that in place, where literally we have a program where we go through the entire system on some of these different elements. And literally some of them take about a year, some of them take 3 years. So that doesn't end. That now is a continuing cycle. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not cheap. Now that's why the dedicated revenue is there to let us do that, to set this up. So this isn't a quick fix. And then we walk away and say, well, let's come back in 30 years and go through all this again. It's just incorporating that. Part of that is changing the view of the customers to understand that, the stakeholders, particularly political side, and even our internal culture to change that, to realize that, no, this is how we will do this. We're not going to come in, we're not going to this sort of whack-a-mole sort of approach. We're not doing that. And so that's a total change of philosophy. And you got to remember, or keep in mind, we were a construction company for almost 25, 30 years of our history. So that's a different mindset than a maintenance company. And so again, that is a change for us. It's a change for the community because they were getting lots of new things, rolling out and not dealing with those other issues. So I think the biggest thing is to hold steady to a funded maintenance program that will have some impacts on service levels at time. We've done about, I think it's about 20 stations so far. And remember, our stations, some of them have different levels and all that. But yes, we're doing it obviously for the lighting portion of it. We're doing it for the cost perspective. But when you think, one of the things that we often get compared to is the cost of our system to other systems. It's interesting. Next time you're in New York or Boston or Philadelphia, count the escalators, right? We have 638. How many steps do we have? Anyone know how many escalator steps we have? No. Just under 70,000. Just under 70,000. We produce our own mold of steps. We sell it to other people. That's how many, we're the largest escalator, I think, in the Western Hemisphere. So anyway, and then so in lighting, the reason I was saying in lighting, think next time you're in one of our stations on a side platform, our lighting's in between the tracks. So to change a light bulb is very difficult. You're shutting down the tracks to do that. The warning lights along the platform, same thing. So that, those are unique challenges to us, and that's why some of these hours are so important, because that's the only way you're getting out there, and much less to do some of the other things you've got to do on the track. But just a simple thing like the lighting is not that simple. But yes, that's the plan, is to get that. And if you've seen it, when we do it, it's night and day, and it's a fantastic. And it helps particularly with people with visual impairments. That's the other aspect of that. Yeah, that's a good question, and it's one that we do get. But it gets back to the nature of the system with a two-track system. Unlike New York, where you have the ability to go around, we don't have the ability to go around. So the only way you would do that is you would have to stop someone on a train, pull them into a pocket track, and let someone go around them. So that would obviously create other issues that way. So the reality is that is our system. That's the nature of the design. I don't see that changing in terms of running some sort of express, because there's no way to express around that local in front of you. We just do not have a system that does that. They're in front of you. Well, I mean, I don't mean to be flippant, but if you're running 8-minute headways, literally they're 8 minutes ahead of you, so you're catching up to them fairly quickly if you're not stopping along the way. That is the reality of what we have with our system. So thank you so much for your attention and your time.
The year was 1988, when Facet's founder, Linda Wimpy, began feeding hot meals to her neighbors who were homeless and hungry along Route 50 in Fairfax County. Today, with the help of you, our faith community partners, corporate sponsors, and caring individuals, Facets changes the world for over 3,000 men, women, and children each year. From those early days of serving hot meals to the hungry, to today, when we have programs and services that touch on every facet of homelessness, poverty, and hunger, we are deeply grateful for your support, and together we will continue to open the door to a bright future for the people we serve.
I sleep in my car. It is not the best situation, but compared to some of the other homeless people who are sleeping in the woods on a bench out in the middle of nowhere, riding the bus during the night because they don't want to sleep out on the street, it's better than that. I thank God for my church, and I have my car. It could be a lot worse, so I'm very grateful.
Our singles team meets people where they are, in the woods, on the street, or in their cars. When the days get darker and the winter winds blow cold, our case managers have the opportunity to form bonds of trust and respect during our hypothermia prevention program.
The hypothermia program is an extraordinary program. It really takes the people who are sleeping outside in the woods, on a bench, in their car. It takes them to a place that is safe, that is warm, that is loving and caring. And the church people go out of their way, as well as the Facet people, to make sure that we're safe and we're kept comfortable, and we have food to eat, and we get a decent night's sleep, and wake up in the morning and get some breakfast and everything, and then hopefully get some lunch if we'd like to, and then be on our way.
This year marks 15 years of working with a constantly growing group of faith community partners who host each winter. These incredible people open not just their doors, but also their arms and their hearts to provide a warm place to sleep, delicious food, and the sense of family and fellowship that raises the self-esteem of our guests.
One of the churches where I was, we were learning to play Uno, and one of the ladies there very kindly went out and bought my own pack of Uno cards and gave to me. It may not seem a lot to somebody, but to me, that was such a thoughtful, wonderful thing for her to do for me. It really touched my heart. Yes, it did.
Our Facets case managers are on site at each location, forming what Linda Wimpy called a connection of the heart, earning the trust and respect of the guests, preventing hypothermia deaths, and moving them from homeless to home. Your support of our 4 community centers is helping to break the cycle of poverty for the families we serve. Each center, located in a subsidized housing neighborhood, is the heart of the community, a place where adults learn English as a second language, financial stability and job readiness training, and important case management services, all designed to help open the door to a bright future.
I said, okay, and I see the sign. It said, Facet Open Doors. I said, what, I've been just reading signs back and forth here and there. And I was like really new in the community, and I said, I don't know what's that for. So when I see Renia and I get inside, and she's, talking about Facet, how she's gonna help the community, the homework, I said, wow, that's really good.
After school, children flock to the centers for homework help, our computer labs, and classes dedicated to raising self-esteem, anti-bullying, and much more.
Well, I've been at Barrows for since I was 7, so that's like a long time. And Facets has really helped me a lot with like my homework, and then also helping me as a college student, because I am a college student now. And I still kind of get that help and guidance that I got when I was in elementary. So Facets has been a huge help and a part of my life.
For those who have been homeless for a year or more, or those with a debilitating physical or mental illness, life can be a battle. Facets is there with permanent supportive housing. Whether in one of our 2 staffed group homes or in a home of their own, these special people are part of our Facets family for the rest of their lives, with a caring case manager who ensures they will be stably, safely, and happily housed. Fairfax County is a place of plenty, with great schools and beautiful neighborhoods. And yet, along the Route 1 corridor are some of the poorest and yet most resilient people you will meet. Our Next Steps Family Shelter provides emergency shelter to families facing homelessness, as our case managers work tirelessly to help them become housed again. We know that catching people before they fall makes all the difference, and with this thought in mind, we provide eviction prevention services to hundreds of families each year, helping them catch up on bills, learn how to budget and save so that their future is bright. We know that there are many facets to homelessness, poverty, and hunger, and with your help, we will continue to provide programs and services that attack each one until that day when everyone in Fairfax County will have a place to call home.
Oh, so all the people, they give into Facets. So just like they give in life, to the people they're really in need. So that's what I'll say. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.